Hi guys, this is Harshane. We all know that newspaper play a significant role in our day-to-day life by providing us all valid information about this earth. But what is the other side of it? What is the reality? And how dangerous this reality could be to the society? So yes, today we'll be discussing more about newspaper and its impact on our environment with our very own Kesavan Chakravarthy sir. So without any pause, let's ask Chak about it. Hi sir. To begin with, what is biodiversity, sir?
That means the vast variety of living things like green trees, plants, fungi, blue-green algae, bacteria, countless terrestrial and aquatic animals,
Okay, sir.
microorganisms, all choosing this planet as their home and living together. Out of these, the green plant and trees are responsible for food production and maintaining the food chain. How they do it? By photosynthesis,
Yes.
which means using the sunlight, using the carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere, and also the moisture, that is the water. They process and process on enzymatic process, and they convert them into carbohydrates or the food, whatever you may call, and they emit oxygen as a byproduct into the atmosphere. This continuously is happening, and because of that, the maintenance of climate, regular rain, regular winter, regular summer, all these things are maintained. This is what is known as biodiversity.
Okay. Now we were talking about biodiversity, sir.
Yeah.
So how do you think it is affected?
Yes, the biodiversity is affected mainly because of men's action. Because large scale land usage undermines the ability of ecosystem to function efficiently. Invasion of other species in the meanwhile
Okay.
occurs. Loss of habitat for the animals which were living in the forest area. And over excessive hunting, fishing, and felling of trees, reducing photosynthesis, and thus breaking the food chain also.
Can you say more about the term deforestation and its impact on the environment, sir?
Right. Deforestation occurs because of purposeful clearing of forest land
Yes, sir.
for agricultural purpose, animal grazing, to obtain wood for fuel, manufacturing, construction, that is logging,
Yes.
and wood pulp making for newspaper, newsprint, and regular paper, thus altering the landscape around the world. Soil erosion happens because of this, and in turn, climate change, which causes floods, sudden floods, unexpected floods, and either flood or desertification.
Okay, sir.
Places are rendered desert, and the animals lose their habitat also. So it has a devastating effect. So never kill a forest.
Yes, sir. Totally agree to your point. Can you say a few words about the role of newspaper and its impact on ozone layer, sir?
Good question. You know, the newspaper at present is quite important for us,
Yes, sir.
because as soon as we get up in the morning, we want to know what's happening around the world.
Yes, sir.
Newspaper, of course, spread informations about happenings around the world, like culture, politics, international events, and to promote and share knowledge, bringing people around the world together, while they directly contributing to deforestation.
Yes, sir.
Can you believe that? Because by deforestation, they render the place without any photosynthetic activity.
Yes, sir.
Because removal of the trees means all the green and plants are removed. That means to that extent photosynthesis doesn't occur. So to that extent, it CO2 is not consumed.
Mm.
If CO2 is not consumed, that is emitted again
Yes, sir.
up, and this is endangering our stratosphere,
Yes.
which is protecting us from the bad cosmic radiation from the sun,
Okay.
and thus it is affecting the ozone layer, which is in the stratosphere. It is a life-saving protection for us.
Yes, sir.
This is how it affects the ozone layer. Therefore, from now on, now our newspapers are 30, 40 pages, is like that. Hundreds of newspapers are there in this country.
Yeah. Talking about the ozone layers, where is stratosphere and what is stratosphere basically?
You know, above Earth's surface, 15 kilometers above,
Okay.
and it starts stratosphere. It extends further about 30 to 35 kilometers above, which means the total thickness of about 20 kilometers thick area is known as stratosphere. Just above the stratosphere, stratospheric layer, sits the ozone layer.
Okay.
Okay. Above the stratosphere, where it filters the harmful radiation emanating from sun, from hitting the earth, thus preventing the harmful effects of the radioactive waves. Otherwise will hit directly on the earth, which is not conducive for life and living.
Yes, sir. Can you give a detailed explanation about the process of puncturing the ozone layer and how it affects our life and other living things, sir?
Man-made compounds like chlorofluorocarbons, that is dichloro-difluoromethane, and hydrochlorofluorocarbons. These would be very effectively puncture the ozone layer, which is in the stratosphere. Unfortunately, the thickness of ozone layer in the stratosphere is ranging between 3 mm to 8 mm only. You can imagine an egg and its shell. It's much thinner than that in proportion. If this layer is punctured, the UV and gamma rays and other harmful radiation would directly hit the earth through the hole, and that will cause cancer of the skin and cataract in human beings and other immune related diseases. This is the reason why people die of cancer and other diseases because of the ozone depletion. So it won't be long before the whole world is engulfed in things, and no living thing can ever live on earth. So we have to be very careful in our emission.
Yes, sir. What is carbon footprint?
By means of carbon footprint, that denotes the quantum of CO2 emission responsibility. When your country is performing a particular duty, that is deemed in terms of per capita, correct?
Yes.
Either it is income or expenses or whatever consumption, whatever may be. So, in the same pattern of formulation, every nation has a carbon footprint. The highest is the highly industrialized United States, stands first. The per capita emission per head is 15.52 tons. In our country, it is still 1.96 tons. On our population, the quantity is quite high. because US population is very, very low when compared to us. That is why their figures exceed ours. But still, we are emitting large quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This is what is known as carbon footprint, the per capita emission of carbon emission responsibility.
So, generally, what are greenhouse gases, sir?
What generally, there are only certain around five gases
Okay.
which are known as greenhouse gases, which are very harmful for ozone layer depletion. They are namely carbon dioxide, number one. Number two, hydrogen sulfide, methane. These two gases are very famously emitted from our sewage also.
Yes.
Okay. Then the fourth one is nitrous oxide, which they use in anesthesia, general anesthesia in hospitals and other things. And the fluorinated gases, that is all used in industry. So, in future we have to be very careful while using all these gases. You have to economically use these gases. Very carefully and prudently we must handle these gases. Otherwise, we will only contribute more to ocean depletion.
To conclude, sir, I have one last question. So, what is your suggestion to reduce these impacts, sir?
You must start using less fuel, that is fossil fuel, that is petrol. If you are using 10 liters per day, please bring it down to at least 5 liters. So you can emit less carbon in the atmosphere. And use alternate source of energy, that is renewable source of energy, like solar, wind, and battery energy, everything. And importantly, reduce the usage of paper. As far as possible, use less paper or no paper. You can take to the electronic medium. Otherwise it is very important, don't use paper. And finally, one great impact that is causing the ozone depletion is the newspaper. For instance, according to the ABC report, that is, there is one organization called Audit Bureau of Circulation, which audits the number of prints and quantity of newspaper, readership and other things. That's called Audit Bureau of Circulation. They are the authentic and authoritative source of information. According to ABC, there are two, let us take for Tamil Nadu, there are two important newspapers, which is The Hindu and Times of India. You know how much tons of newsprint they use every day, that is every edition. Hindu is using 28 tons per day and Times of India about 50 tons per day. This is ABC report. So both of them put together 78 tons per day. This is not to speak of the other hundreds of other publications in different vernacular local languages in India. That would be a staggering amount. You can realize the fact that our country, in the year 2021 and 22, they have imported newsprint alone to the extent of 49 billion rupees. 49 billion. And the cost of 1 ton of newsprint is $500. Whether it is from Canada or Belgium or any other country, it is from our earth, correct? And that means more and more CO emission, that is less and less photosynthesis. They have to manufacture 1 ton of newsprint, they have to cut about 40 numbers of trees of the dimension of 2.5 feet diameter and 40 feet length. Like that, 40 trees they have to fell in order to make 1 ton of newsprint. That means these two newspaper alone responsible for, I have calculated as per the calculation, 5,61,000 trees. Is it not mind blowing? So much trees have been cut for our these two newspaper consumption, that is Hindu and Times of India consumption. Therefore, and they compete with each other and publish about 30 pages every day. Out of the 30 pages, hardly you can find news for less than 2 pages. And that is also not important news. Important news is only the front page. The rest of the pages are all money making. All the money going to the private coffers at the cost of ozone depletion. So, government should bring in a regulation via legislation to restrict these papers not to, each edition should not exceed more than 8 pages. Okay, like that they should bring in a legislation to control this newspaper. Control means not everybody will say our constitutional right is infringed and all. That's all nonsense. It's a simple sheer waste buying this newspaper and studying. As the electronic media is progressing very well, we can switch over to electronic media for any kind of information. Otherwise, it's all just a mere waste.
That was really very useful and very informative, sir. Thank you so much for providing us all validative information on this topic. So, in our next episode, we'll be seeing more about how to improve the tax collection and increase the revenue for Chennai Corporation. Until then, stay tuned.